Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are in the second video of our lecture tutorials in data analysis with SPSS. And if this is the first time you are watching my video, I recommend that you watch the previous video so that it will link you to the current video where we are. Without wasting much of our time, let's get started. Welcome friends, and in today's video we'll be looking at data entry. We'll also do some codings on the data, and we shall be weighing cases, we shall be doing sortings, then reducing sample sizes and selecting cases. Now friends, in SPSS, like in my previous video, I've shown you how to enter data, but today we'll be entering data again and importing as well. So before we enter data, we have to go to the variable view and then tell SPSS the kind of data we are going to enter. Alright, now we have variables that we are going to enter. Variables are like specific characteristics of an object or an individual that we are studying under our population. Now we have to give a name for our variable. Under name, you give a short name for your variable. Like for example, a variable we are studying is age, a very short name, and if it is a bit long, you don't need to give a space, you only write a short name. And then if you want to separate something here, you use underscores to separate it. And then the data type of age is always numeric. Age is measurable in numeric form. Then the width, the decimal, we are not going to use decimals for age. The labels, now the labels gives you a description of your age. So you say here age of maybe students, or you can also say age of respondents. So you are trying to describe your variable name. Then values, we are not going to use values for now. Until then, we shall learn how to use values during coding. Alright, now missing values, we keep it there for now. Columns and alignments, we'll decide how to align our data in the system. We want it in the center, right or left. We'll keep it at left. Then the measurements of our variable, since age is measured numerically, we'll use a scale. Alright, that is how we arrange or define our variable. Secondly is maybe scores. So scores are always measured numerically, so we keep it for numeric. And if you have like dates, we can come here and define it as date. And then if you have string like qualitative data, you come here, maybe your variable is qualitative, so you come here and define it as string. But as for now, our scores are measured numerically, so we keep it for numeric and say okay. Then here we say scores of students. If you are defining or you are trying to define your variables under labels, you can space it, you can give a full meaning of what you mean by scores. So here we leave everything like that. Now the measurement is still scale. Now we have sex. Sex is either a male or female, so it doesn't matter. But you know very well sex is numeric. It cannot be measured. Is nominal. You cannot measure numerically. So you come here and say string. Keep it to that. And then we don't need decimal places for sex. Say sex of students. So we align it to the left. It is nominal. So SPSS helps you to define your variables. So we have height. Height is numeric, and we can have any decimal places 1 or 2, but let's keep it to 1. Then height of students. So that is how we define our variables. Heights are always measured in scales. So after defining your variables, you come back here, and then you can see now SPSS has displayed for you the space where you're going to enter your data. So you can now begin to enter your data here. So the rows are all the records, and now you can begin to enter age, maybe 12, 23. He scored 45. Sex, height is maybe 6 feet, which maybe 6.1 inch. You can enter the second information, maybe 12 years old, and then you have scored 55. You're a male, you have 5.6 inch height. Alright, you continue entering data like that. That is how it goes. You continue entering data as much as you have from the field. Now, how do you save this? If you want to save your data entered in the system, you can come to File, you go to Save As. Right, now you specify where you want to store your data. So you can open it, and then you give your file name, then you say save. Alright, it's already saved. So now when we have already data, because data can be in Excel file, it can be a CSV file, it can be a database file, any kind of data you have, you can import it, assuming you have entered them ready in the system like Excel sheet. Now you want to import it into SPSS for you to be able to do that analysis. You can come here, you say open, say data, and open a new file, a new data sheet. So we have a new data sheet, right? Then you can come here and say open, go to data, right? Now I should know where I've stored my data. So my data is in the desktop here, right here. Now I come and specify the data type I have. I mean here I come and specify the files that I have. If I have my data in Excel, I come and click here. If I have it in a CSV form, you come here, check for a CSV data. Okay, like my data is in a CSV form. So after clicking it here, then my data will come and I click on it here, and then the file name is automatically brought in. Now I click open. So we wait for it to open, right? Right friends, here, if you want to import data, you come and click here, then click open data, come and specify my file location. Then I come here, and then if my data is saved in Excel form, I come here and click Excel. But for my data case, my data is in a CSV form. So I come here and click data CSV. Then you can see my data is here on the display. I click on it, it's automatically brought in here. Then I click open. Right, let's wait for it to load. So after loading, you can click next, then next, and then click finish. You can see my data is already loaded. Now you can come here and then see under variable views, my data has been named in this format, but I can change it, right? I can change it in a way I do understand them. Right, fine, you can see our data has been loaded now. You can check data view. You can come here and click variable view, go back and come here, right? You can see how we play with our data. Now here, since the names are arranged in this format, you can come and change your name from here, right? So that is how we do it. Now for coding, if we want to do coding, because sometimes we collect our data from the field, and usually before we do the analysis, we'd love to code them. So how do we code them? We can come here and we can open a new file from here. Open a new file, click on data. Right, now we have our display here, and we have to import data. We click on file, then you come and say open data. Then you should go and know your file location. This is my file location, but I have to specify the kind of file I have. If you have an Excel sheet, you come here. If you have a CSV file, you scroll like me. I have a CSV file, so I click on here. Then you can see it is already here. If I click on it, it opens. All right. Now you click on next. So are the variables names included at the top of your file? You say yes. Right, then you go to next. Right, then next, then next, and you say finish. You can now see our data is already loaded in the system. You can go around, variable view, data view, variable view, and you see everything is loaded very well and nicely. Now we can begin to do some codings on our data. Right, now for example, you can scroll here, you move to the end of our data, and you can see our data is completely raw, and we actually have to do a lot of work, right, to make sure our data is very clean. Now you can see under age is written as Mr. and Mrs. Miss, and all these things have to be changed, so have to be cleaned. So there's a lot of work that you have to do before you decide on to begin doing data analysis. Alright, now how do we do the coding? The codings are always done for you to be able to do analysis. Now codings are always assigned, like for example, if we increase our variable here, or for example we can use P class. Now if you come here, you go to P class, which is here. You can see where my cursor is moving under values. You click there. Now P class are always in 3 stages, 1, 2 and 3, but now we can change the P class to a string. So by giving a name, maybe let's say giving a country. So those ones who have a P class 1, let's say they come from Kenya, we put our value 1, then we say Kenya, then we say add. Then those ones who are having P class 2, let's say they come from Uganda, say add. And then those ones who are having P class 3, then let's say they come from Zimbabwe, then we say add. After doing that, you can say okay. Now if you go to data view, you can see how it has been changed, right? You can see how it has been changed from those classes. It has been changed. Now you can come here and click on this, and you see it has been returned to numeric. And if you go back and click here, you can see it's been done like that. And that is how we do the coding. Now in the case of preferences, let's say for survive, we can code it. On the other way, if you want to also code, like for Mr., you can code it to 1, then Mrs. as 2. Depending on how you want to code it, you can also do it. Then we can also do 1 for survived. You come to survive, you go to values here, say for those ones who are having 0, say not survive, then say add, then 1 survived, say add, and then okay. So if you go back to our data view, you can see under survive we have not survived and survived. So if you come here and click, you can see how it changes, and you can do this kind of coding for all the variables you have in your data set. Alright, that's it for coding. Right, now weighing our cases. Now with weighing our cases, like if you go to the field and you collect your data, you're expecting your samples to be randomly selected, but because of some situations in the field, you end up selecting samples based on convenience. Now this kind of sample, if you do analysis, your results might be biased, and now you want to reduce the bias in your results. So what do? You weigh your cases, and sometimes the organization that you work for will give you the variables that you should assign the weighing to. But now for our cases, we can now like decide on one variable, and then maybe we assign a weight, like weight it, so that we reduce the biasness in our data. Now for example, let us use any numerical variable. Let's say, for example, let us use P class as well. Now we might assume that P class has been a variable which is not randomly selected, like maybe the cases. So how do we weigh these cases? You come to data, then you come to weigh cases, right? So which one exactly do you want to weigh? You come and click here, weigh cases, then you pick P class and drag it inside the box, and then you say OK. Alright, and make sure if you are doing this kind of weighing, you should make sure that the original data, you are not going to use it again, because you are trying to work on this new data so that it gives you the best data you can have for analysis. Alright, so our P class has been weighed already, and now we assume it is randomly sampled data. So you can also remove the weighing from your data by still going back to data. You go to weigh cases, then you'd say do not weigh cases. Alright, and then you click OK. So your data has been reorganized. Right, that is how we do weighing on our data. Now the third thing we are going to look at is sorting data. Now we want to sort data based on certain criteria. We can still use the same P class, which is here for sorting our data. Now how do we sort our data? We can go to data, we'll say sort our cases, P class, you drag it here. You want to sort it in ascending order, you want to sort it in descending order. Our data has been selected. You can see P class begins with 1. Then if you click here, you can see it begins with Kenya throughout, and it follows by Uganda and ends with Zimbabwe. Right? You can also do the sorting based on another variable. Let us say survival cases. You drag it in and then say OK. Alright, now you can see our cases are sorted beginning with not survived, and you can see everything is very nice. Right, it's very nice. Right, that is how we do sorting. Now sometimes we will be working with a very large data set which contains over 2 million cases. Alright, now we find it very difficult to analyze such data, much as it's the best for us to obtain the best results of our analysis. But then sometimes you want to narrow it down to a specific number. Now in that case, we have about 200 cases here in our data. Let's see, scroll it down. We have 891 cases. And now we want to reduce the sample size to a very given number. So in that case, how do we reduce our sample size? Then let us go to data. Then we go to select cases. Alright. Now we select based on a given condition, but in our case we are selecting a given sample size from these cases we have. So we are going to click on random sample. We click on sample. Alright. Now we want perhaps maybe 5% of 891, or we want 10% of 891. Then we give a percent here and then say continue, and then you say OK. Right. Now our data has been reduced and it has been selected automatically by SPSS. So if we are doing our analysis, you can see these cases that has been crossed out. These are cases that will not be considered when you are doing analysis. Only these cases that are not selected, these are the cases that has been picked out to be among the samples. So this is how we reduce our sample size. Otherwise, if you do not want to reduce it or you want to go back, you can still go to data, then select cases, then you say you remove. From here you say all cases, then it is removed. Or if you want to also select based on certain condition, close this one first. You can now see our data is back. Now if you want to select based on certain condition, you can come and say data, select cases, condition. If you want to select survive, but the condition is it must be equal to 0, which stands for not survive. So you continue and then say okay. Alright. Now you see our case, our data has been now selected based on a condition of not survived. So you want to analyze data on the number of people who did not survive. So we have removed out the cases of people who survived, but we are left with only people who did not survive. Now you can see our data is already here, sampled. And if you want to go back, you can still go to data, select cases, then say all cases, then say okay. Our data is back to our normal. Alright. So the last thing we're going to do is also we're going to select cases, which we have done earlier. Maybe you want to select a specific kind of group of people from your sample. So you go to data, then you select specific based on condition, maybe P class. If P class, you take it here, is equal to 3, right? Then you say okay. Now you can see our data has been selected for P class 3 only. So those cases that have been crossed out here are not like considered when you are doing the analysis. Only cases that have a P class 3, they are the cases that will be considered when you are analyzing your data. Right? Like for Excel, if you select a case, perhaps the case that has been selected will be highlighted by a given number, or it will be removed, singled out, and then the rest that are not wanted, you don't see them. But for SPSS, you can see all the data you have, except that the data that you don't want to involve in your analysis, they are always crossed, and if you see they're crossed, they will actually not be considered when you're analyzing your data. Only the cases that are left out and the cases that you wanted. So you can go back to your original data by going back to data, select cases, then say all cases, then say okay. So that is it. Thank you, friends. If you find my video very helpful to you, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and give me a thumbs up and share my videos with friends who are in the same field of data analysis.